So what was your track about today?
So it was called Bring the Love, but I was talking about some of the work that I did with the homeless, and I wrapped that around extreme networking to make it useful. So the way in which you network and build trust with a disparate audience, people who are homeless, people on the street, people who are addicts and so on. The way in which you network and build trust in order to be able to move them forward is exactly the same thing as we have to do in hiring or in our businesses, right? The same rules apply. So some of the things that I took from having a recruiting HR background into a very different environment with the homeless in order to get that bit right. You know, I'm really interested in that.
Yeah. You got your own foundation.
Yeah. We've got True Feeds, which now is working with an organisation called Nash. And we have about 250 people housed who were previously homeless. So that's really where I'm focusing at the moment, and that's where a lot of the money from the events that we do goes to.
Yeah. So what was the greatest topic you heard today?
I think all of the conversation around ChatGPT is interesting, right? And it's a real mixture, as with any technology, of possibly overexcitement about the potential, or the reality of some people saying, this is what I'm actually doing, this is what I'm working. I think that's what people want to get hold of is, yeah, I get the excitement, I get the hype, we don't need to have sessions on that. What I want to know is, I need a session for an hour on how do I write a job description? How do I source? How do I find a candidate? Which is all about writing prompts. And I'm really excited about that whole ChatGPT space, because the nature of prompts, the way in which it's built, is based on asking questions. And if we can't do anything else as recruiters, we're really good at questions, and we're really good at what's the next question that goes underneath that, right? That's the way that we interview, that's the way that we work, that's the way we build job descriptions with hiring managers, is asking those extra 9-10 questions. So now there's a technology that does that, and we can also do it in like 96 languages and all the rest of it. Now there's a technology that's built on that. If we can apply our skills of recruiting into prompting, in which we're asking a technology rather than a person, I think really it should be in every single piece of the recruitment workflow. So I'm excited about where it's going. But the other thing that was really interesting to observe is also the fear, which I think inevitably comes, right? The fear, there's distrust because it is technology, you have got to get it right, so there's lots of basic value questions that have to be asked, where the data comes from, how you use it, how does it tie in with GDPR, there's all these kind of things. There will be European legislation on the use of AI. We know it's coming down the line, it's probably about 6 months away. So lots of things are going to change from a legal standpoint that we need to be on top of. But there's also fear, right? There's genuine fear in change, of people looking at it and saying, does this mean I'm not going to... If you take away 70% of my work, do you only need to hire 30%? Do you only need the team? If you have 100 recruiters and you bring in ChatGPT and it does 70% of the heavy lifting, does that mean we now only need 30? Well, the answer to that is reinventing jobs to say, okay, now you don't have to do all this stuff. What could you do instead? And I think what that will be is the build of, one, there'll be a whole team of people who will have to understand what prompts, what questions to ask. Because if you don't have the underlying knowledge, you won't get a good result from the tech, because it's just tech, right? So having the underlying knowledge, and having the underlying knowledge to know when it's right and when it's wrong and when it needs correcting, is going to be the real skill, and that's going to put people in this generation at a premium, I think, over the next period of time. Is because the more that people use tech to do the work, the less people understand the kind of hard yards, the basic principles. So I think it's going to be really interesting in that, but also appreciating that people are secretly quite scared, and when they're quite scared that it's going to damage their role, they can be quite disruptive or dismissive. So, you know, you talk about a matching technology, recruiters always be saying, no, you need the human piece, Actually, you don't. To get the front end, I think to produce a long list, you do it all in the machine. It's the shortlisting bit, which is where the human skills come in and say this one over that one, not for the reasons on the paper, but for the personality fit or whatever it is. So I think it's an interesting time, and I think we've really got to appreciate this is scary, because there's also a bad economic background anyway when people are getting laid off. So secretly, although the elephant in the room, no one's saying it out loud, but I think a lot of people here saying, how do I keep my job? Like, I've got tech and I've got a bad market, so how do I stay relevant in this? And the answer is to go with it and understand it.
Jump on the train.
Exactly right, exactly right.
Thank you.
My pleasure.